What is going on, people? Joey Talks Boxing here. Tyson Fury will fight Francis Ngannou next. I think that a lot of hardcore boxing fans are not happy about this, and it's really interesting how Fury's perception has changed so much over these last few years. Fury was someone who a lot of people did not like, particularly in the UK area, even after he had defeated Vladimir Klitschko for the heavyweight title back in 2015. He then went crazy. He went on his rant, did a whole bunch of wild stuff, was out of boxing. He comes back, does very well considering the standard and the circumstances and expectations against Deontay Wilder, and has a draw, which most people felt like he won. He got knocked down in the 12th round. He got back up and proceeded to get a draw, but most people respected him for getting up after getting knocked down, and how hard his journey was to even get into that shape that he was in was considered so amazing, and most people thought he won the fight, so that was great. Then he comes back and defeats Wilder the second time, knocks him out, destroys him. Then the third time, he has one of the best fights in heavyweight boxing history. But over the last year or so, he has really hurt his reputation in boxing by hardcore boxing fans. He fought Dillian Whyte after Deontay Wilder. Dillian Whyte was ranked in the top 5. Dillian Whyte was his mandatory. I think that's a legitimate foe, so I'm not like knocking that. But then after the Dillian Whyte fight, he says he's retiring. I didn't believe him at all. Some people did. Then he unretires, and there's talks about Ngannou, then there's not. Eventually, he settles in on fighting Derek Chisora for the third time in a homecoming fight. Nobody's really interested in that fight. He wins basically every single round. I think they TKO. They stopped in the 10th. Whatever. He was calling out Anthony Joshua after Anthony Joshua had lost the rematch to Usyk. And Joshua had accepted the terms that Fury had listed, but of course the fight fell through. I don't think either guy really wanted the fight, but it really kind of shows you that Fury's not a man of his word, and he's just all games and nonsense. And him and Frank Warren aren't even on the same page. He says something in one interview, Frank Warren, his promoter, he says a completely different thing in another interview. They're just all over the place. And what kind of person wants to fight Anthony Joshua after Joshua has lost 2 in a row and he's in his weakest mental state? That just shows you what kind of a person, like how Fury thinks about things. Like, why wouldn't you want to fight the guy who beat Joshua? Okay, you want to save the money? Fine. Then we get in position to fight for the undisputed title. We have not had an undisputed champion ever in the 4-belt era. And we have not had an undisputed heavyweight champion since Lennox Lewis in 1999 when he defeated Evander Holyfield. There's so many belts. That's always the problem. That's what we've wanted, was the clear guy. Okay, in other eras, it was very obvious who the clear guy was, even if they didn't have all the belts. In this era, it's not obvious. And I don't care what anybody says. Both Fury and Usyk have legitimate claims to being the best heavyweight in the world. You could argue for either guy, and you could make arguments that either guy would win the hypothetical fight. But the point is, there are arguments to be made on both sides, and that's why we want to see the fight so badly, because we want to see who's the best. That's why we wanted to see Wilder and Joshua when they were there, and Usyk was at cruiserweight and Fury was out of the sport. Then we wanted to see Wilder and Fury, and then we want to see Fury and Joshua, and now Fury and Usyk. These guys all got to fight. We got to have a round robin, not just to see how good everyone is and how well everyone matches up, but also to see who is the best, because that's what we want to know as boxing fans. And it's just a shame, because this fight versus Ngannou, it doesn't help you find out who's the best. He's fighting a guy who's never had a professional boxing match. He's an MMA fighter. I know some MMA people are happy to see Ngannou get his payday. I know a lot of people, they didn't like the way he was treated by the UFC. They felt that Dana White did him dirty. And they were saying that Ngannou was stupid for leaving the UFC and he was going to come crawling back and taking even worse terms than were offered to Ngannou when he had disagreed with his terms to leave the UFC. So I get it, like, it's cool. And I get Fury from, like, the hustle standpoint. Like, you're going to be making a lot of money and there's very little risk. And you might even make more money doing this than you would fighting Usyk. So I get it. But the hardcore boxing fan is disgusted by this, because I'm sorry, like, we understand the difference between boxing and MMA, and this is not a knock on Ngannou because he's a hell of an MMA fighter, and he was the champion in the UFC at the heavyweight division, and I think he would still be the champion at the UFC division had he not left the UFC heavyweight. You know, he'd still be the champion in the heavyweight division, but it's different. Boxing is different, and I'll say this, I don't think Fury would beat him in MMA. It's different sport. I want to see the best fight the best, and this is not what that is. So Fury has lost a lot of the hardcore boxing fan, and the videos that he's making with all this stuff, it doesn't help. It really is bad. And Usyk, what's crazy is he was offering, Fury said 70-30, take it. That's what he said to Usyk. Usyk said, fine, I'll take 70-30, but in the rematch clause, if I beat you, you got to give me 70-30. Fury didn't want to do it. It wasn't good enough. So it's just a shame, man. He's the difficult one in all this, and he doesn't, you know, at least right now, he doesn't want to fight with Usyk. The hardcore boxing fan is not into it, and it's a shame because someone as talented as Fury and someone as charismatic as Fury, he's been the villain for a lot of his career, and he was finally not being the villain in boxing, but now he's the villain again. So it's just a shame. Let me know what you guys think. What do you guys think about Tyson Fury and how the hardcore boxing fans look at him? Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Peace.